Unconditional surrender means foreign troops get to rape your wife and daughter. Everyone can feel that. That's like the most atavistic instinct there is. And so to avoid that, people will do anything.
It makes no sense in the context of the United States and how we have carried out wars or military interventions.
Hello， 大家好，我是李恩。我们上期好不容易花了相当长的篇幅，把美国保守派的网红大 V Tucker Carlson 公开反对川普拿出来谈。很多观众朋友可能好奇说，Tucker Carlson 有这么了不起吗？其实并不是在于说他个人有多了不起，而是在于说他的言论其实确实代表了一部分比较偏向孤立主义的保守派，就是不干涉主义。简单说就是美国呢就不应该扮演什么世界警察、什么世界老大哥的这种角色，对不对？根本在别人看起来就是一种美帝主义嘛。所以呢，我们应该寻求美国的利益为优先为至上，我们不应该太过多的去插手他国的事务。这一群保守派的声音，他可却是他们最有力的一个发声筒，就有别于川普这边的这种支持美国有必要去介入或者说干预世界各国的局势，透过实力达成和平。那这种也包含了保守派当中比较偏主流媒体的，像 Fox News 都是比较坚定支持这种暂时的体制。所以他可所散播的言论呢，在我来看，绝对对于接下来的中期选举会有所影响跟发酵。毕竟这就是内部已经开始逐渐不团结了嘛。好，但是呢，也诚如我上部影片说的，我认为他可作为一个自媒体工作者，非但不是公职人员，他也不是主流媒体新闻从业人员的话，我当然认为他有绝对的言论自由，想说什么、爱说什么都没关系。可是偏偏现在他的言论，我认为确实已经有过度极端、过激、不太冷静、客观的地方。这样子言论的发酵，很大程度会加深了美国不必要的意识形态的偏见。就好比说，他在他节目上公开的表示，认为美国入侵伊朗的这个做法是完全的邪恶。好，那你用 evil 这种角度去形容的时候，会使得战争当中它里面复杂的环境以及它在大国与大国之间博弈的高度上面呢，就过于流于单纯的定义是非对错当中。其实川普他在下的这一盘大棋，考量的因素是多面向的。如果单纯的把这样就指为是 evil 是邪恶的时候，难道事情真的有这么单纯吗？或者说，难道伊朗就是一个完全的无辜吗？我们有一个老朋友呢，跟我一样有类似的看法，那就是 Steven Crowder。他认为他可就有许多偏激过头且是不合理的言论，作为一个保守派来讲不应该有的说法。我们就一起来看看 Steven Crowder 是怎么说的，以及我在当中会适时的补充我个人的看法。一起来开始吧 ，Let's go！
This next part, I want to be as contextual as possible. So first, let me show the clip that many of you have seen from Tucker Carlson discussing unconditional surrender regarding Iran, the United States, from this weekend.
If there's one consistent lesson of history, it means unconditional surrender means foreign troops get to rape your wife and daughter. Everyone can feel that. That's like the most atavistic instinct there is. And so to avoid that, people will do anything. And so that's why it requires that level of force to get a population subdued to the point of unconditional surrender. That's why. And so in this case, of course, we don't have the ground force necessary. I don't think Americans would voluntarily participate in it. I just don't think we can do that. It would require weapons of mass destruction. It would require presumably nuclear weapons in order to do that. And let's not lie to ourselves. We're moving toward that.
Now, before I get to my opinions here, first off, that was not taken out of context. Full link in the description. You can go and check out, watch the whole show, because I saw a lot of people, and there were false fact checks online saying, that's AI. I saw people respond saying, I'm a fan of Tucker. That's AI. Well, now that you know it isn't, do you stand by? Because that meant that this was so obviously, so egregious that you were willing to dismiss it as AI. It's not. He's referring to the American military. He'll say he's not. He is. There's no other context. Also, he's doing this bait and switch where he says you'd have to subdue the population. No one is looking to subdue the population. The overwhelming majority of Iranians want the United States there. That doesn't mean that it is our job to go and liberate them. But they do not feel whatsoever that American troops are going there to rape their women and children. They are the ones arguing against Tucker. So when he says subdue these, what we're talking about is subduing a very, very small percentage, a very small number of people who are part of the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran, who, by the way, in no way represent their people. Let me be clear, being critical of the U.S. involvement, right, in Iran, I get it, completely reasonable. Being suspicious of it becoming a quagmire, yep.
Right.
You don't want to see Americans get killed? I don't want to see Americans get killed. I certainly don't want Americans dying on behalf of any other nation, which is namely why I have a problem with Iran, who've killed many American troops. But, and we're going to get some other examples with Tucker Carlson here, and I've invited him on the show, and I'll invite him again. Same thing, Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, all of them. Nick Fuentes is the one who showed up, and I disagree with him on a whole lot. Tucker, I think it'd be a reasonable time to do so. There are people out there who, whether accidentally or by design, almost always line up against the United States and against certainly our troops, somehow end up smearing the United States at large on the global stage. I don't know where in that pattern you say, okay, maybe it's no longer happenstance. And to be clear, the claim can no longer be made that that Tucker Carlson is more MAGA than people who are critical of him. I mean, Tucker was the one who called the attack on Iran absolutely disgusting and evil. That's not, I disagree with it. That's this action that was decided upon by the president is evil. That's President Trump is the bad guy. Just like they're going, everyone knows the unconditional surrender is the raping of your women and your girls. Everyone knows that. That's news to me. Certainly as it relates to American troops.
Right.
So Trump responded. He was very clear. He said, Tucker has lost his way. I knew that a long time ago, and he's not MAGA. MAGA is saving our country. MAGA is making our country great again. MAGA is, frankly, America first, and Tucker is none of those things. And Tucker is really not smart enough to understand that. Now, what Tucker was referring to in context was, again, a statement from President Trump, where he was talking about the terms that would be acceptable to ending the attack against the Islamo-fascist regime. He wrote, "There will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. After that, the selection of a great and acceptable leaders. We and many of our wonderful and very brave allies and partners will work tirelessly to bring Iran back from the brink of destruction, making it economically bigger, better, stronger than ever before." So whether you agree with him or not, this is clearly directly addressing, especially if you watch his show, President Trump saying unconditional surrender. Islamic Republic of Iran, American military. Tucker says, well, that means that they're going to rape your women and children. All right. So let's actually take that clip a little bit longer in context. We led with it. Here it is again for those of you who missed it. And tell me where you line up. Hey, if you think we're missing something, then I have a couple more.
If there's one consistent lesson of history, it means unconditional surrender means foreign troops get to rape your wife and daughter. Everyone can feel that. That's like the most atavistic instinct there is. And so to avoid that, people will do anything.
Not to me or to the Iranian people.
So that's why it requires that level of force to get a population subdued to the point of unconditional surrender. That's why. And so in this case, of course, we don't have the ground force necessary. I don't think Americans would voluntarily participate in it. I just don't think we can do that. It would require weapons of mass destruction. It would require presumably nuclear weapons in order to do that. And let's not lie to ourselves. We're moving toward that.
Unconditional surrender means that they will rape your women and children, meaning American troops. To which American soldiers said, we would have taken unconditional surrender from Venezuela before this. That's carte blanche. If I didn't know that was the agreement. Here's the truth. It makes no sense it makes no sense in the context of the United States and how we have carried out wars or military interventions. Whenever someone does this, they say, well, everyone knows that. It's usually a trick and it's usually bullcrap. There are very few things that everyone knows. And if it's something that you've never really heard and is not widely believed, if it's something that's unique to the person saying it, then the American troops, they're going to rape all of your women. Everyone knows that. It's a trick. Don't tell me, show me.
刚刚 Steven Crowder 这一段，我们会员影片也有放完整版哈。Tucker 已经公开的在节目上 指称说入侵伊朗是一个完全邪恶、完全无人性的做法。你在这样子表达的时候，等于你已经在指认说，川普总统在你眼里就已经变成了一个什么都不是，只是邪恶的人了。这一点，我觉得他可把这个话说得太重，显得说川普过去所做的一切都没有一丁半点的好。只是因为他在攻击伊朗这件事情上，跟你对于反战的立场角度不一致，就是一个完全的邪恶嘛。如果是这样的话，那在今年1月年初的时候，对美国逮捕马杜罗的部分，又怎么看待这是不是一个邪恶呢？对吧？所以这个是一个很主观的东西。当然，你可以说这已经超过了你的底线。OK， 你认为这就是川普个人的邪恶？那我们也没话讲，任何人都可以批判自己的总统。可是他可偏偏又把川普的话做了一个过度的解读，就是川普说他认为要停止战争的方式，除非伊朗的神权政治集团愿意接受无条件的投降。什么是无条件投降？就是你不能带任何交换的条件，那么我们呢才愿意停战。可是他可把它解读为无条件，就是恐吓对方国家说，我的军队爱怎么做怎么做，我的美国大兵可以强奸强暴你们伊朗的妇女。这个是什么年代？更不要说美国是怎么样的民主国家。我们都知道，在美国的战争治兵守则里头，就不存在烧杀掳掠，还可以强拐良家妇女，像日军在2战时候的这种惨无人道的行为。所以他可把这个部分拿来放大川普说的这句话的时候，我认为他已经把对川普的不满完全做恶意的解读。就是说，你可以不欣赏川普，可是你要解读成说川普是纵容美国大兵，爱怎么做怎么做。这个其实说来就有点可笑，因为我们一般人听到这个字眼也不会往那个方面偏激的去想，对吧？那更何况你在讲的是自己国家的军队，某种程度上不就抹黑了美国的军队所代表的国家形象吗？当然我也可以理解，他可的过激言论无非是希望能够对于不支持他或是不认同他的人去刺激他们思考理解像他这种反战的角度在哪里。但是终其而论，就像 Steven Crowder 讲的，你其实是在伤害了自己的美国军队。刚才也可以听到 Steven Crowder 其实他很愿意邀请各个不同保守派的声音能够来与他一起讨论。那 Steven Crowder 这种提出邀请的态度，我个人是非常欣赏的。也可以听到他也提到说，目前只有富恩特斯 Fuentes 呢有来上他的节目跟他讨论。而所以在上集节目提到过，保守派里如果是天主教这一边，因为 Fuentes 他自己是一个虔诚的天主教徒，基本上天主教徒对于以色列是没有好感的，所以 Fuentes 也是完全的反对川普去出兵攻打伊朗，因为他们都认为说这个只为了以色列的自己利益有关。但是真的美国出兵攻打伊朗有这么简单，只考量一个中东以色列的利益，而美国没有半点好处在这里头吗？有兴趣的朋友再回去看我上期的影片，你会有一个更清楚的轮廓。
So here's the thing too, it's remarkably inconsistent, and his guest, I believe on that show, I don't remember if it was that or the previous show, was someone who's parroted communist Chinese talking points. I always ask that there's some kind of consistency. And when there isn't consistency, okay, that sounds some alarm bells. But when I see consistency on the other side of someone who is consistently inconsistent in their application, meaning outrage only for one side, where I'm twisting words, and then on the flip side, I expect people to read between the lines when I say something outrageous. Right away I go, well, that doesn't seem like this person is acting in good faith. Yeah. Remember, Tucker Carlson, now implying that American troops will rape your women, took great offense to Mike Huckabee saying that the IDF tries to avoid killing civilians.
Do you know what Israel does? They send page messages and they send texts to every cell phone in Gaza, and they say, we're going to hit this particular target. They drop leaflets and they announce where they're going to hit. Nobody does that. The U.S. doesn't do that. Israel does that in order to prevent, let me finish this. They do this in order to prevent civilian casualties.
As an American, permit me a moment of outrage, because I said many civilians have been killed. Yeah. And you said, right in the middle of your elaborate defense of the IDF's killing of civilians, including children, you said they do a better job than the United States does. That's my country and my government.
It's my country. What flag am I wearing here?
Well, I'm asking, why is it
What flag am I wearing?
Well, that's, of course, my flag as well.
And it's my flag. It's who I serve.
So why the dig at the United States in the middle?
It's not a dig at them. No. You've totally misrepresented that.
What did you mean by that?
I did not take a dig at the U.S. What I'm saying is...
So the IDF is more humane than the U.S.?
Yeah, so what Mike Huckabee said, whether you agree with him or not on the IDF, that's a dig against the United States, but not the implication that American soldiers are rapists.
If there's one consistent lesson of history, it means unconditional surrender means foreign troops get to rape your wife and daughter. Everyone can feel that. That's like the most atavistic instinct there is.
Now, we can do the wordplay thing and say, well, he didn't say American troops. He was just talking about the context of Iran and Donald Trump saying unconditional surrender and talked about subduing the people of Iran. Well, there is no world in which he is discussing anyone other than members of the United States military. Do you guys see it? It's using, just like the left, it's using outrage as a political tool when you don't really mean it. What do I mean here? I don't think he was outraged at Mike Huckabee saying that. I really don't. I think he was playing a game.
Yeah.
And I think that he was implying that the American military is doing something wrong here, because he also said that the action, which involves the military, it's the only action, is evil and disgusting. Here's the other thing. If you don't apply it equally, like if you're really concerned about this phantom rape from American troops, well, why is it never discussed that there is an actual rape culture in the Islamic Republic? There's no protection from rape. There's no such thing as spousal rape, including, by the way, not like here in the United States, but forced marriages. So you can be forced to marry, and there's still no protection against violent rape. Rape in Iran, under the current regime, requires 4 male witnesses. Meaning if there's 3, it's a false accusation, and you get 80 lashes. Okay, let's narrow it down. 2 witnesses to a rape. You're a woman. You come forward. 2 guys say, we saw this person raped. Very unlikely, because they kind of want to keep the status quo. You still are the one who gets punished. Let's go back to the 2022 protests. The Iran security forces, they used rape as a form of punishment for detainees that documented at least 26 men, 12 women, and many children as young as 12. It's a culture of rape. It's a policy of rape. It's something the American feminists are very silent on, which we've discussed quite a bit. But if you're going to bring up phantom rape, hey, why isn't there a consistent application of the government that condones, that abets rape and punishes women for simply coming forward for rape? Now, I know what you're thinking. To be clear, that last one's not as bad as you think. The men there, the 26 men, were raped by women. So, or a woman. Help, rape!
Was that you in BDSM?
No. I'm sure did you guys hear my stomach growling?
No.
Did you just, really?
I just realized I didn't eat enough this morning.
That made you realize?
No, it was before. Stop it.
Weird.
It was before that.
Weird, bro.
All right.
All right, I might have been that too. Now, here's something else. If we apply it, right? I defended Tucker, and I still do. He absolutely had every right to interview Putin. I would interview Putin if I was given the opportunity. I would interview Hitler if I was given the opportunity.
Yeah.
I'd kill the shit out of baby Hitler. Don't get me wrong. It wouldn't even be a question. But if Hitler was already in power, if Hitler was in a position of influence, of course I would interview him. And I would try and illuminate people as to why his influence was a bad thing. That's my job, is not to say no because I don't want to platform somebody. Well, someone's already platformed. So I have no problem with him interviewing Putin. Then when he did the propaganda piece of the Russian subway and he went to the Russian grocery stores, again, he just said, look how cheap this stuff is, but he didn't tell you that it may be cheap to you, an American, but it costs an entire month's salary from someone in Russia. It could be an accident that he was doing the kind of propaganda that you see on state-run television in Russia. It could be an accident that he's also not just saying this intervention is wrong, but sort of out there parroting the lines that the Islamic Republic would want him to be parroting, that American troops are invaders and rapists, which is, by the way, in diametric opposition to the Iranian people. It could be just happenstance, and it could be happenstance that he gave a monologue just one episode prior to this, I believe, that if you put side by side is eerily similar to exactly what you hear on Chinese state-run media regarding China.
The United States has reigned in a unipolar world. That's what they call it. There's just one pole. There's one center of gravity. There's one power center, and that's been the United States. But that has changed over the past several years, maybe decades, certainly since China was admitted into the WTO in 2001. Now it is a multipolar world. You've heard that phrase, no doubt.
多元共生才是人类社会本来的面貌，多极共存才是国际格局应有的样子。
And China is now a peer with the United States, at least, almost no matter how you measure it. Population, of course, much bigger. Military power, well, we're not quite sure, but certainly from a technological and industrial output standpoint, at least a peer. And then on a pure economic level, well, China has a bigger economy, a bigger real economy than the United States. So yes, China
real
is
economy.
a
Well, that's
peer.
not true.
Who gets to set the terms for commerce and diplomacy and everything else that happens on the globe? Well, if you were to reach a diplomatic solution, there would be, in effect, a power sharing agreement between these two countries. You take the East, I take the West. Here are the terms. But unfortunately, no such agreement, formal or informal, has been reached.
中国绝不走国强必霸的老路，也不认同大国共治的逻辑。
This other country that's as least as powerful as we are, called China, different system, language, culture, etc.
What's the system?
But at least every bit as powerful. And so you can't make unilateral decisions anymore. It's sort of that moment that many parents face when used to barking orders at their kids, they realize the kid is taller than them, and like it's a new relationship in some ways. You're always the parent, but you can't just bark orders anymore. That's pretty much where we are with China.
我们坚持走和平发展的道路。国际格局应该如何发展？中国的方案就是建设平等有序的世界多极化。
Even as we speak, there's probably some symposium underway in Washington about what will we do if China invades Taiwan. Well, of course, from China's perspective, Taiwan is part of China. It's just sort of run off for the past 75 years, but it's still part of China. That's their view. And the United States, of course, isn't in a position to stop the reclamation of Taiwan. Let's stop lying. And yet only in D.C. is that not obvious.
台湾自古以来就是中国。
Taiwan has been an integral part of China since ancient times. It never was, is not, and never will be a country.
台湾回归中国。
Its return to China is a victorious outcome of the Chinese people's war of resistance against Japanese aggression and the Second World War.
Now, let's just assume that all of that is happenstance, okay? And let's just assume that it's happenstance that they actually were running Tucker Carlson on Russia Today, that Iranian television was running Tucker Carlson. Let's just assume that, because I get it, Hitler liked sandwiches and I too like a sandwich. In other words, it doesn't mean that you are agreeing with them. But consistently, let's look at the coincidentally wrong talking points. You'd have to get all of these wrong and just happen to line up with China. They have a bigger real economy. Well, that's not true. Taiwan has always been a part of it, and that's not in dispute. Well, okay, that's not true. And by the way, that wasn't mainstream conservative, right-wing MAGA ever at any point. You guys remember during COVID, right? CDC, when we're talking about the WHO, they refused to even acknowledge Taiwan as any type of an independent state. Remember that famous Skype call where they hung up? Iran, okay. The fact that, you need to subdue the people. The people are saying, no one's looking to subdue us. People are liberating us, whether you agree with the policy or not. How do you get the right, wrong talking points all the time? It's a valid question for people to ask when they see a pattern at this point in time. And let's say that you just believe it's coincidence, and I am not trying to say that someone cannot hold any of those opinions. Okay. Well, the fight is over the conservative right. The fight is over America first. The fight is over MAGA. It's very clear. Tucker Carlson is saying that China is at least equal to or more powerful than the United States. And so obviously they can be the ones dictating the terms. That's his view. China is equal to the United States in power or more powerful. President Trump's view is that we need to reduce the power of China. And that's all of these moves, and that's important. That's why President Trump and Tucker are at odds. You look at Venezuela. You look at Iran. By the way, Cuba, we got you on our peripheral vision here. They're next. It's all about reducing power to China. And it goes deeper, but in case you guys don't know, than just energy. It goes to minerals. It goes to nitrogen. It goes to so many supplies that are incredibly important going through the Strait of Hormuz that China is reliant on. And if China has an ally in Iran, well, they control a lot, and they, God forbid, could become as powerful as Tucker Carlson wants you to believe that they are. I have told you for a very long time that China is a threat, but China could be a paper tiger if we simply take the right steps in policy. And by the way, no president has done anything of more significance than President Trump in dealing with China. So you do kind of have to decide. America first, MAGA, do we believe that China is our primary adversary? Is our primary threat? Get rid of Israel. Get rid of even Islamic encroachment. Do we believe that China is a good faith actor? And if we believe that we have levers within our power, should President Trump pull them in order to prevent China from becoming a larger global problem militarily, economically? Is that in America's interest? Is America first, hey, communist China, bad, and we want to reduce their power? That's President Trump, and that is my view, provided, right? We're not wasting money on forever wars, of course. Or is the view, it's just a people who have a different system. We say free enterprise, you say communism, and by the way, they're just as powerful, so there's nothing we can do about it. We should let them determine the lay of the land. That's the future of the conservative right. I think it's important to know.
Don't trust China. China is asshole.
Now, see, that guy gets it.
Yeah, that is important to note.
Yeah, and we all got it only a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And I think most of you still do. And then I would add exhibit, I guess, what, Z at this point. His most recent guest, Tucker Carlson's recent guest, is Sagar Enjeti of Breaking Points. Also strikingly similar to the CCP propaganda talking points on a regular basis.
At the same time, we talked about China earlier. We weren't able to cover this bridge, but there's this new video going out and going massively viral for the right reasons. It's not AI. China has now officially opened the world's tallest bridge. They did it in less than 4 years. The Grand Canyon Bridge is 2,050 feet above the river and spans 4,600 feet across, quote, insane. And you can see here, that is...
the waterfall features.
It must be nice to live in a real country. You know, last time that we were doing stuff like this was when? Hoover Dam?
Do you know why China can build so many cool, futuristic infrastructures? Like this world's highest bridge, which just opened on September the 28th, located in China's Guizhou province. Because China doesn't allow billionaires to do whatever they want to achieve maximum profits for themselves.
Oh, really?
Chinese government designs its policies to ensure benefits can be brought to the maximum number of ordinary people.
Really?
Do you believe that? Do you believe that? Do you believe that the Communist Chinese Party is acting in the best interests of all of their people? Do you believe that China's gotten it right? Do you believe they just have a different system than the United States? I don't. And Tucker, I mean, I know we've, full disclosure of it, when he used to be on Fox News, I would appear on, he was host Fox and Friends in the Morning, appear quite often. I've spent time with him, was always friendly. I just disagree on a fundamental level right now at this point. And I know that you will sit down and discuss with every Tom, Dick, and Harry or Clint Howard lookalike who claims that there are more Christians in Palestine and they're less oppressed, or someone who parrots communist Chinese propaganda talking points. I'll talk about it with you. And I agree with you on probably more than most people do. I don't think that the United States should be acting on behalf of any foreign nations ever. I don't think we should be writing a blank check to the Ukraine. Was against it quite publicly, to be clear. But my starting off point, definitely as America first, is a communist alliance of people who want to see the destruction of the West and the United States aren't the good guys. I still do view America, and certainly America under President Trump, as good, and global communist bad actors as bad. Now we can determine which policies going forward, where it's appropriate for intervention, if at all. But this is something that we all knew to be true, because it's not just, to be clear, about the military, about the economy. Remember, you were the victim of Chinese propaganda globally. Everyone was. And you saw their thumbs on the scales. Remember, for a long time, according to these international governing bodies who you were upset with, we're not even talking about the CDC here, but the WHO, COVID came from a wet market and a bat. And anyone who spoke out against that, or anyone who even recognized critics of China like Taiwan as an entity, well, you didn't exist. This is the danger of Chinese propaganda because it upended the global economy by design. Some would argue a biological weapon with COVID. Don't forget this.
The WHO considered Taiwan's membership. Hello?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I couldn't hear your question.
Okay, yeah. Let me repeat the question.
No, that's okay. Let's move to another one then.
Right, because I'm actually curious on talking about Taiwan as well, on Taiwan's case.
Goodbye.
Now, hey, let's say you agree with Tucker and Taiwan's not a thing, and communist China has a right to take it and subjugate those people, even though we're generally against, use of force.
And we're incapable of stopping it.
Right. But let's assume that. Is it ever a good thing to have an official governing body silence all debate or dissent or voices of opposition? How about globally? Is that just another place, another country that is as big and powerful as the United States, who, by the way, may have a different system? Or is that something that is trying to usurp everything the American people want here in Western civilization? We do need to have that discussion. I think it's important. And hey, you know what? Maybe we agree, but come one, come all. Anyone on any of these topics, and certainly Tucker as it relates to the United States, Iran, the threat of China, and communism globally.
好，最后这边呢，我特别在上期影片也提到，在借着 Steven Crowder 他的疑惑呢，来重新做一个解读。就是他不明白为什么塔克始终在对美国上面这么样的不断的去抨击自己的国家，却没有对于独裁政权的这些国家来同样的抨击，或者说表示一致性。他可能还比较偏向去肯定中国的崛起、俄罗斯国内的进步等等等等。那这些说到底仍然在于，就是我讲的，塔克本身有很强的孤立主义。孤立主义本身乍看也没有什么错。也就是说，我们美国呢就管好我们自己就好，那各个国家呢管好他们自己就好。但是世界并不是这样子运转的，特别是我跟观众朋友也提到过，左右派的文化战争的里头，背后的本质逻辑其实是一场去基督教化的运动。为什么欧洲的国家在这近5年来居然可以有那么多的穆斯林，而且似乎欧洲一整片的在导向所谓的穆斯林文化，而非捍卫自己传统的犹太基督教文化。
So they go, and these are proud Islamists. They love their religion, they love their family, they love their community, and so they're not going to absorb themselves and assimilate themselves into Europe. And today, you're looking at population replacement in a lot of cities. You go to certain places in Britain, and you might think you're in Cairo or Baghdad, and this has caused tremendous conflict throughout Europe. I would not be surprised if like 2 to 4 years time, you have civil war break out, insurgencies break out in places like Britain and France. So the question is, why is this happening throughout the world at the same time?
Exactly.
Why is it that these different nations, whether they're European, whether they're Canadian or Australian, why are they adopting the same policies? Not just in terms of COVID, right? But also in terms of like immigration. And so that's one of the great questions that we have to ask about the world we live in today. It seems as though it's almost a controlled demolition of Western civilization, right? The Anglosphere, Western Europe. It seems as though these nations are being destroyed purposely. For what end? I don't know. But I would just say there's a certain pattern that has emerged, and the result can only end up in the controlled demolition of these societies.
I don't even think that's up for debate. I mean, of course, just look at the bottom line numbers. Of course, the white populations are being killed on purpose. And the question is why? And I don't have the faintest idea. And I know there's a lot of speculation as to who's doing it. I'll just say bluntly, I don't know. I mean, I know who the instruments are, of course, but Keir Starmer's not in charge of Great Britain. Macron isn't in charge of France. I'm not sure how many leaders really do have control of their countries. I don't know how many countries actually have sovereignty. I really don't know the answer. But something is going on.
在过去，特别二战之后，非常著名的就是保守主义的反共产思想，或者说反左派思想。前阵子美国国务卿 Rubio 呢，特别在对付伊朗的时候，还公开的放出一句话，那个时候也成为一时新闻的焦点，叫做 Unleash Chang， 放出蒋介石。
美国国务卿卢比欧3号在国会向参众两院进行机密简报后，公开说这句话。
You know, we're going to unleash Chang on these people in the next few hours and days. You're going to really begin to perceive a change in the scope and in the intensity of these attacks.
Unleash Chang 让蒋介石出山是源自冷战时期的政治口号。1950年代，韩战爆发时任美国总统杜鲁门下令第7舰队协防台湾，防止中共进攻，同时也禁止蒋介石反攻大陆，引起美国国内反共派不满。同年7月31号，美国陆军5星上将麦克阿瑟以联合国军总司令的身份访台，跟蒋介石举行2次高层会议，和反共派强烈主张撤走第7舰队，同时军援蒋介石反攻大陆。这股政治诉求最后化为口号，就是 Unleash Chang。而根据《纽约时报》报道，卢比欧当选佛州议会议长时，前美国总统小布希的弟弟杰布·布希送了一把蒋之剑。卢比欧接受访问时提到，杰布·布希遇到重大事件时口头禅就是“我要放出蒋”，也让卢比欧因此成为蒋粉。
美国的保守派那个时候就已经有一个深远的看见，就是一旦禁止了蒋介石反攻大陆的话，那么未来中国大陆它会变成全世界最大的共产国家，所以那个时候保守派才很强烈的在国内掀起的 Unleash Chang， 把蒋介石放出来。所以美国国务卿 Rubio 讲这句话出来的时候，代表了美国一个非常大的保守派核心价值，那就是反对共产主义。但是像 Tucker Carlson 这样的孤立主义的人呢，淡化掉了反共的这一种思想。所以他在感伤欧洲目前越来越被穆斯林化，越来越流于左派的社会主义乃至于共产主义路线，他可自己没有想，恰恰孤立主义你就给了极左的共产主义这样子的一个有机可乘的地方。当然作为一个中华民国的国民，我不会认为说美国有义务要无条件的帮助台湾，但是作为一个保守主义者的我来讲，美国帮助台湾的理由不是只是在于台湾在第一岛链军事地理上的位置，它背后还有一个更重要的核心，就是如果失去了台湾，那么美国要如何能够遏制共产主义势力蔓延的一个破口，对吧？如果今天保住台湾，美国的保守主义在台湾就有机会落地生根，进而来抵御共产势力。所以塔可在我来看，他对于左右派光谱的国际观有非常严重的模糊，或者说他自己可能还在这里面摸索不清楚的地方。我认为如果塔可没有把这一层看清楚的话，那么孤立主义最后造成的结果终究就是你保守派不要说是在国际间反共了，哪怕是在国内你连左派连觉醒文化你都打不倒。文化终究而言它是会互相影响的，文化与文化不可能在有神论跟无神论当中取得一个完全和平的相处。无神思想它会想办法逐步的去掉有神思想，而有神思想也不是只有在一昧的退让或者是在孤立情况之下就能够明哲保身。所以最后这一点补充呢，是我个人对于塔可的孤立主义的一个注解，给观众朋友呈现出一个我自己在保守主义光谱当中对于孤立主义者的一种担忧的看法。但是呢，很高兴我们另外一个老朋友 Steven Crowder 呢，却坚定的表达了他反共，表达了他认为保守派所该展现出来的勇气以及行动力。当然我更希望的是真的有机会让像 Steven Crowder 跟 Tucker Carlson 这样来好好的进行一次对谈，增加在保守主义光谱思想当中一个更深刻的理解以及阐述。
对不起，我俩惺惺相惜，情不自禁。
就是到底作为一个拥有上帝基督信仰的人来说，我们在这个世界上当然什么都不做，什么事情都不容易犯错，可是什么都不做的时候，会不会指这个世界想要改变的恰恰是我们自己？这个是我要在这个影片当中留给观众们去思辨的问题。我们这边是超级神队友，我们就下部影片再见，拜拜。
The cornerstone is Christ alone.